Hey friend, how you doing? Welcome to the video. Oh, that? It's just hyperspace. Yeah, I spoke to the Star Wars and I asked if we could use hyperspace to film this video, and they said yeah, surprisingly. So here we are. Now, if I were to describe the sequel Star Wars trilogy, I would describe it as someone who started a homework assignment. Not halfway, a third of the way through that assignment, they got lazy and they said, "Here, friend, can you finish this assignment for me?" Their friend picked up the assignment, started to do it, did a pretty good job. However, the initial person didn't like what they were doing, so they erased all of their work. And they finished the assignment and they failed. That's a jab at Disney and J.J. Abrams, and I'll explain myself in a minute. Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, is directed by J.J. Abrams and follows the story of Rey, Finn, Poe, C-3PO, R2-D2, BB-8, not Rose, as they go on their final journey and face off against Kylo Ren, Palpatine, not a spoiler because he laughs in the trailer, and the rest of the First Order. I have such mixed feelings about this movie because I am a huge Star Wars fan. Love Star Wars movies, love the games. Not really a huge fan of the books, but that's because I haven't read a lot of them. Love the TV shows, but I'm a huge Star Wars fan. However, this film kind of left a bad taste in my mouth in some aspects. So let's talk about what I liked about this movie first. Visually, I would say it was pretty impressive. The set pieces were great to look at. With J.J. Abrams behind the camera, you always know you're going to get something amazing. So this film was really good to look at, and I would say all the action that they had in the movie was great. There was a lot of good stunts that took place. There was a specific fight that took place between Rey and Kylo Ren in the ocean, and it was incredible to watch, like just how everything took place. Not gonna spoil it for you guys because there's some crazy stuff that happens in it. However, just watching it and watching the fight sequence take place, the stunts that were there, completely phenomenal. So I have no complaints in the visual department of this movie. The acting was another high point in this movie. I don't think anybody did a bad job. Daisy Ridley as Rey, again, amazing. She's been amazing through all three films, and I would say this really topped off her performance. I wasn't a fan of how they ended her story per se. However, that has nothing to do with Daisy Ridley. She, as an actress, did her job, and I appreciate everything she put into this trilogy. Now, John Boyega's Finn was pretty disappointing in my opinion. Not his fault, I would say, but they didn't give him enough to work with. Now, he was barely active in the movie, and the plot points that they introduced in the first two films weren't really touched upon this time around. So it was really disappointing to see he had a bunch of threads that just weren't completed, and I didn't like that for him, especially because he was introduced as one of the main characters in the first film. Hell, C-3PO even got a bigger arc than Finn did, and his arc was pretty emotional, I would say. Now, C-3PO has always been the character that gets dragged along, even though he doesn't want to be in the missions per se. However, this arc that they gave him, it was pretty nice, and it was really funny, I would say, for sure. Someone who did not get enough screen time in any capacity was Kelly Marie Tran as Rose Tico, and that brings me to my criticisms of this movie, and oh boy, I got some shit to say. Back to the analogy I made earlier about the homework. Now, J.J. Abrams directed Episode 7, Rian Johnson directed Episode 8, and J.J. Abrams directed Episode 9. Obviously, with somebody else in the middle, there's going to be some differences in the directing style and in the way that they tell a story. Now, I personally initially did not like The Last Jedi, but after watching it again, I appreciated some of the things they did, except for that casino planet. That was terrible. We're never going to talk about that again. However, there was a lot of things that he did that were really nice in my opinion. But it doesn't feel like Kathleen Kennedy, the higher-ups at Disney, and J.J. Abrams felt the same way because they backtracked on a lot of the things he introduced. And it was kind of unnecessary in my opinion because he had some interesting plot threads that could have been continued upon. However, they decided to take the easy way out and just make it more appeasing to fans, even though, yes, fans are important, but fans aren't the ones who really are the ones you should be pleasing at all times. This is supposed to be a good story, And a good story trumps what people are complaining about on social media, which I think is why they made a lot of the changes that they did this time around. Not a fan of that as a fan. Like giving Rose less screen time. Obviously, Kelly Marie Tran got a lot of backlash on social media for being an Asian character in a Star Wars film, and they did not like her arc with Finn. I personally didn't like the arc with Finn either. However, I'm not gonna bash her on social media just for being who she is. She's playing a role in a movie. Like, people are dumb, obviously. However, it seems like Disney gave in to the fans that were making all those rude comments to her, and decided to give her like a minute or so of screen time when she had about 30 minutes in episode 8. Which is ridiculous. Now, granted, there were interviews that said, oh, she had a lot of scenes with Leia and they didn't fit well because obviously Carrie Fisher has passed, RIP. But still, you guys could have worked something out. Like, there's no reason to give in to that pressure, especially when it could have been a better story overall. Even bigger than that, though, my gripe is with the storytelling. It was very dry and very unseasoned, in my opinion. They played it too safe, and it seems like the writers were running on fumes, and they decided to go back to a lot of previous plot points in the original films, and I wasn't a fan of that. I don't know, it just felt too rushed. And the conclusion, the last line that Rey said, it felt like a cop-out, in my opinion. I don't know, maybe I'm being too negative. Like, this is still Star Wars. Star Wars is great, but I guess I expected a little more. Obviously, the 9th film in a series that's been going on for about 40-something years, yes, it's hard to end that properly, but I think they could have done a better job, in my opinion. Still better than Attack of the Clones, though. That movie's garbage. Fuck that movie. No Jar Jar Binks. Ever. So would I recommend that you see this movie? Look, you know who you are. You know if you like Star Wars. If you like Star Wars, you're going to see this movie regardless of what I say. You've probably already seen it a couple times because this review is super late. Not going to talk about that, though. But if you don't like Star Wars, and if you've never seen a Star Wars movie, first of all, why are you the way you are? Second of all, why are you trying to watch the 9th one first? But if you are a new fan to Star Wars films, and you're already kind of iffy about them, this one probably won't sit well with you. But it's not going to be the worst one out of all of them that you're going to see, in my opinion. Now, I would still put this film above Attack of the Clones. However, it's pretty low on my list in all the rankings of Star Wars movies. Well, guys, those are my thoughts on the concluding film in a 9-part saga of Star Wars movies. All in all, not a terrible movie. Not even, I would say, a bad movie. But for what it is, it could have been a lot better, in my opinion. Now, if you like this review, please write something in the comments. Let me know how you felt about the movie. If you enjoyed it, tell me why you liked it. If you felt the same way as me, let's discuss that too. But as always, like, subscribe, and stick around to see what type of content I take on next. Later.